Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to NickTalks. Oh man, been a good time. Been a good couple weeks, or a week for you guys, I guess. Not a whole lot to update on. I am running a bit of an experiment currently. I'm like a quarter of the way through. I'm testing my zipline method hypothesis. I want to rebrand that. Like I said, I want to give it a new name. I'm thinking maybe slingshot method because the issue with zipline is that it takes you from a high to a low point. It's not quite what we're going for here. Zipline is still not quite the action, but Hot Wheels track method, it just doesn't really stick. You know what I mean? So, and ramp method, I'm thinking through it. If you got some kind of idea, drop it down below. Maybe we'll see how it goes. Cool. So basically, right now, I am not doing all of the things that I talk about or all of the things that I believe make me productive and keep me in the right headspace and keep me goal oriented. And I'm doing basically the opposite of those things. And just to see, so then at the end of this period, which is either gonna be like 3 or 4 weeks, I'm thinking, because I did it for a week and it just doesn't seem like it's had any effect. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go a little bit longer. I was gonna do a week off and then a week back on and see what the projection trajectory is looking like, but I don't think that I've done enough damage yet. So I'm backtracking here and doing it for a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna just double down on all the things that I was doing and then throw in some new things that I've been thinking about implementing and then seeing the takeoff. And so just a kind of way to prove, or maybe not prove, but test the things that I've said about, when you're at the bottom, you gotta know where to go but up. Use that bounce up to really maximize your gains. And I'm thinking about this in terms of like really beating any plateaus in improvement is what I'm testing for, because I'm thinking that like I was kind of to the point where it was like hard to implement new things, and so if I do this, maybe it'll kind of change the game a little bit. I don't know. I'm testing it out. I just want to see how things go. So just keep in mind, some video in probably a month or two from now, you'll see the results of this test here. All right, cool. So with that being said, let's see if we can up the. Yeah, that's better. Cool. So let's get into it, shall we? Cool. So I kind of wanted to go back over the whole "It's a Wonderful Life" philosophy thing, where like once you get into the game of getting better and pushing your life into new ways and trying to dig up more success, you start to realize that when you do that, you have an effect on the people around you, and there's this ripple function that flows through everyone that is in contact with you and maybe not in contact with you. That it sets the standard a little different, and then now they have to meet that standard. And so I have some anecdotes that I'd like to throw in here, and just round off the total point, because I think this is something that's really important. So basically, in a nutshell, to sum it all up before we jump in, I guess I've kind of already summed it all up, but sum it up even further is that getting better is not just a game about you. It's not just about improving your life, because when you improve your life, you kind of consequently improve everyone else's around you, or at least show them that it's possible to do so. And I've noticed some things that I would like to add into the equation here. So first off, I've noticed that like when I'm very fit, like when I'm really on all my gym goals and I'm smashing things and my diet's right and I look at least aesthetically very fit, I notice that suddenly people ask me for advice. Like people that, I guess I would say people that I work with. That's what I was going to come in here with. But even people that I don't work with, obviously people that I work with will come up and they'll say like, hey, I got this thing coming up. How can I lose a couple pounds? Hey, I want to shed some fat. How can I do that quickly. I'm having trouble like reaching new potentials or new places in my training regimen. Do you have any ideas there? And then I've also had customers, like people that either I'm serving or just from another table that see me that come up and they're like, hey man, like I got this thing going on. What do you think about this? And so that alone, it shows that like when you exude, when you are just leaking success out in any avenue, you're going to start seeing questions, and that alone shows that it's having an effect. Because when you see someone who is, especially someone who's approachable, and these people trust you with providing answers, maybe they listen, maybe they don't. That's not really up to you. It's kind of the horse in the water thing. But, the possibility of leading that person to an increase in their quality of life is also increased. So even if every single person who's ever asked me for advice because they thought I knew what I was talking about, even if all the advice that I gave them fell on deaf ears and they just went home and made no changes, it's still, that opportunity didn't exist before. But because of at least my appearance, right? Because they don't really know what's going on. It could be a goofball, right? It could be blasting, whatever PEDs, but either way, they see me as a trustable source. And so that has increased the likelihood that someone confronted with this notion is now going to make changes in their own life. And that's at least some kind of benefit. I wouldn't argue any kind of percentage of benefit, but some, even if it's just 1%, at least it's, you're bringing in more light into the world than hopefully you're taking. And there you go. And also, I've noticed that there's someone very close to me in my life that shortly after I started like really digging, I talked to this person on a weekly basis. We talk on the phone for hours. And I noticed very recently that they started telling me like, hey, like I'm setting these goals and, these are the things that I'm trying to improve. And these are new things that I learned. And maybe that happened to some extent before, but it like never to this degree, to the point where it's like alarming. We're like, wow, holy hell, I never really saw that coming. And I would never be so arrogant as to take credit for someone else pushing their life in a new direction. But what I hope is that me doing so and being vocal about it and showing results had some kind of a push effect on this person. And so then there you have it. Maybe one of the 100% of that idea, maybe 1% of that idea came from me, and maybe the 99 came from them, right? But either way, that 1% that I am providing is, I believe, a service, right? And again, part of this responsibility that you have, that the harder you push, the more people are gonna be like, maybe that is possible. And then, the closer that they are to you and the more friendly you are about sharing what you're doing, then the higher the likelihood that they're going to ask questions, and they're going to want to do things, and they're going to make changes, and they're going to realize that like, this is just a guy, this is just a person that I know, and they're doing it, so why can't I? And sometimes that's all you need to bridge the gap between what is impossible and what is reality, right? You just need a little something to show you that maybe I could be doing more, and then thinking about that, right? And then the other thing here is, there's someone else that I live with actually that I noticed they would come to me and say like, man, I had this crazy realization, I was struggling with this problem and I didn't really have an answer, and now I've come to this realization. And they talk all the way through it, and I listen, and at the end I'm like, it's really interesting. I made a video about that like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I know this person watches all of my videos. And then you're like, and then I've noticed that not only did that happen once, but it happens regularly, where this person will bring up something that I've talked about in a video and talk about it, not from like, hey, I watched your video and I made this change, but just from like, hey man, I've been thinking about this thing, and I'm making this change and it seems to be working really well, and I didn't know what to do before, but now I do. And not even realizing that maybe that's probably where it came from, right? And so again, I'm not going to take credit for this person's journey at all, but if I'm helping and planting seeds, then that falls into the same category of doing some kind of good, right? Making some kind of change and bringing a little bit more light than you're taking. And that is where the responsibility comes in, of where, like, if I was not doing anything and it was just the same thing that everybody does, just going to work, clocking in, clocking out, going home, binging and drinking and eating and then falling asleep and then doing it all again the next day and making no changes and not improving or whatever, these things wouldn't happen. So even if it's only a little bit of influence, it's enough to make it worth it from a giving perspective, right? Like, this is not, set aside the benefits of your own life for improvement, but just focusing on, like, the ripple effect, that the butterfly effect of your good and ambitious actions, the effect that has on the population around you, especially those who are closest to you, who know you're not bullshitting, who know that you're doing what you're talking about and seeing the results firsthand. That is, that's what we're all about, right? That's what we're here for, just to try and make our community a little bit better, a little bit safer, a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more conscious, right? And so in doing so, not only it's another why to add into the equation. It's another, like, reason for doing this, kind of part of this little hiatus that I'm taking from my productivity rituals is I've noticed that, like, my mindset hasn't changed, which hopefully means that this whole bulletproof and confidence deal that I've been working really hard on is really paying off. But also it's reducing one of my whys for going to the gym, because now, like, obviously I don't, like, before it was, I noticed an immediate result from when I went to the gym. My mindset changes, like, as soon as I step into the gym, and then after I step out, like, I'm a different person. And now that's not quite the case, and it seems like it's not completely necessary. So then, that falls to the side, but then bring in this other why, which is arguably even deeper and more important, is, right, but if I go to the gym every day, then I show people that a person can do that, right? If I go to the gym consistently and I'm actively making progress and I'm looking better and I'm healthier and I'm smarter and, less anxious and more focused and all these things, then now that serves as a purposeful goal to guide others, or at least just be a visual representation of what could be happening in someone's life if they're not doing that, right? So I think that's, like, a really cool part of this, is that, in helping yourself, you really are indirectly helping everyone else. And, so if you're struggling for a reason why, and you're, a little bit of a hero, then just think that through and think about, like, okay, the longer that I wait not doing it is even more people that won't get the inspiration that they need, right? Even if it's just this tiny little thing, tiny, tiny, tiny little thing that leads, it's like the feather on the camel's back, right? Even if it's just a little thing that pushes them over the edge, that's good enough to make it worth it, right? It's good enough to know that you are helping, in even just a small fashion, someone make an improvement in their life. And then when you chase that rabbit hole down, you see that when that person starts doing these things, they're going to find more. The more you look, the more you find. And this person is going to keep going, hopefully, right? Continuing down this making yourself better rabbit hole. And then who are they going to infect? Who are they going to impact? Who are they going to inspire? Who are they going to push to do something better about their life, right? And then now you see this even bigger picture of the fact that maybe when you were doing really good 1 month, right, and you just happened to bump into the right people at the right store just accidentally, and they saw you and you talked for a little bit, and then they made some improvements in their life, maybe years down the line, there's some freaking kid over in Indonesia who now is changing something about his habits just because of some long-term ripple effect through word of mouth, right? Or through the internet or whatever. So I find this incredibly motivational and inspiring, and just I think it's important not to get big-headed about it and not take credit for others' success. But I also think, like, recognize that it's possible that you're having, just as a possibility, not as a fact, right? But it's possible that you are having an effect in what you are doing, and you're really making around you better, right? So I just wanted to kind of retouch on that and dig a little bit deeper now that I have collected some anecdotal evidence for this whole thing, because I guess before it was a little bit abstract and it's a all fine in theory, but now I'm seeing it's regularly reconfirmed to me that you're doing all right, kiddo, basically, right? It's like the universe responding in some kind of way, which is a bit, put the tinfoil hat on. I don't like to get too deep into the weeds on there. I like to keep it as real as I can. But it's a nice little reinforcement, I think, for me personally, and I'd be interesting to know what you think. And especially coming at it from the right perspective and not dumping, hey, I'm doing all these great things, look at me, onto somebody hoping that you're going to make their stuff better, but just let it happen naturally, right? Just let your success infect others so that they may pursue success in their own lives as they define it, right? So something very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things move in the future. And if this ends up not being what I think it is, then we can have that conversation. But I really am consistently reaffirming my belief that when you make yourself better, you don't just make you better, you make everybody better. And you show people, I think the most important is that you show people that it's possible for one person to make a change in their life. And that's, all the proof that another person needs. Because when I see somebody on Instagram or whatever, some famous person making billions, it's like, yeah, okay, these people don't exist. They're not real. This is just a figment of the collective imagination, right? But when you see the guy that you've worked with for a year and a half start to make some big changes, you'd be like, I know this guy. I talked to this guy. We were just bullshitting about how bad the tacos are here. And now all of a sudden he's jacked, right? What does he know? How does he know this stuff? And then you ask him some questions. So what you do within eventually is without, and therefore brings a whole nother level of purpose into the equation, right? Right. Cool. So I guess this also comes into leadership a little bit. And I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, but it ties also into things that I mentioned before about mentorship and how when you get to a certain point in a certain avenue of your ambition, people start to fall away. The bullshitters are put with the bullshitters, right? And so then you realize that nobody really knows what they're talking about, or at least anyone in the general population that you interact with at working at Denny's or whatever, right? Or working at Target or wherever you are. Most people are just talking, and they really can't give you any advice and stuff like that. And then you have to become the leader of your life in another way that you maybe weren't before. And something that I've learned is that leadership is a lonely endeavor, especially when you take it further and further. And when you really pursue a depth of a goal that other people are not, you're going to find more and more that there are going to be less people taking that class. And then eventually it's going to be just you. And I think it's, at least for me, and I don't want to talk about like leadership as if like I'm some great leader or something like that. It's more of, leadership exists on all levels of scale, right? Even just you to you are the leader of your life. And, so these things are applicable. You don't have to be the president of the United States to be a leader. It's just, how do you lead your life? How do you lead the people around you? How do you lead, whatever, any scale of that operation? And what I found is that like when you become the person that people ask the questions to, you realize that you no longer have a person like that. And in most cases anyways, and that is very isolating. And this kind of comes with the whole I pay it gladly line from Equilibrium, where it's like, you can cry about that, and you can, dial down your things so that you're not doing that great, so that you have people to talk to about it. But I don't think that's the name of the game. And I think accepting that loneliness is necessary. And you can't really get all bent out of shape about the fact that you have no one who can teach you these things, and you just have to accept that you got to find it yourself and just figure it out and do it, and do so that it's not, you being self-proclaimed leader suddenly, and that kind of ties in here as well with the don't talk about it, be about it. Well, we're really running through the greatest hits right now, but it all kind of comes full circle where this part of leadership is lonely. At least for me, I am definitely someone who has sometimes quite the unchecked ego, and I find myself wanting more attention and praise for the things that I'm doing and the successes that I've had and the help that I've given others. And the more you chase that, the more it runs away. And so you just really have to accept fully, deeply, that it is a lonely endeavor. And if you're going to be top dog, there's only one top dog, right? So you can't expect other people to even be able to fully appreciate what you're doing because they haven't done it, or they don't even know what that means to have done that. And so you're not going to get praise for something that someone doesn't understand. And so just grind it out, dog. Just grind it out and accept that there is going to be some things that when you become the best, or when you start getting into the upper echelons of whatever you're doing, then there's going to be less people for you to converse with, right? You can always converse at all levels, but not at the, like, when you're talking about the tippy top, what it means to be up here. If you're freaking the best skateboarder in the world, you're going to find that you can talk to other people about all their stuff because you know it all, but they cannot talk to you about your stuff because they have not done it. And so, you could be like, I can't talk to people about my skateboard stuff, but you just have to, like, okay, it is what it is. I just am this guy, I guess. Just got to be that, right? And when you highlight it, when you succumb to that ego and you highlight it to other people, like, look at these great things that I'm doing. If you come at it with the right energy, sometimes you can get away with it in short bursts. Like, hey, I'm really excited about this thing that I did really well. And the people who are close to you are going to root for you, hopefully, if you surround yourself with the right people. But when you start to rant about how great you're doing, it just pushes people away. It just pushes people out of there, and that goes right back on the It's a Wonderful Life thing. So, you're basically reversing the positive effects of your leadership just because you're talking about your leadership. And so you gotta just be the lone dog, man. If you're gonna push all the way, just accept that there's going to come a time where nobody's going to understand. Nobody's going to understand. And if you try to make people understand, they're just going to not like it. And they're going to be very uncomfortable. And they're probably going to misunderstand and judge what they think you're doing, even though you're just trying to. I mean, I guess you are being like, look at me. But it's a tough deal, because you would think that the higher you go, the greater the praise is, but it's not always the case. And in some cases, it's quite the opposite. So just accept and pay it gladly. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say on that one. Just accept that, you could take this the other way and you can say, okay, maybe I don't want to become this well-knowledged in this subject because I know that it's just going to be annoying when I try to explain to anyone and they just don't understand and they think I'm wrong and whatever. It's like, no, I really know what I'm talking about. But yeah, and then maybe dial it back. But I would say that if you're someone that just really wants to push for themselves, you have to recognize that you're doing it for you and you can't rely on others' approval to reinforce, like, yeah, you're doing a good job, buddy. Right? Because that's not going to happen. Sometimes it's going to happen, but rarely. Very rarely. So, nice. Lack of mentors times 2. Yeah, doubling down, man. You get, and it's tough, dog, because I feel like sometimes I talk about these subjects and it sounds a little bit like I'm in some, elite force that I'm self-proclaiming myself the leader of. But that's not quite it. I'm just trying to keep it real. I'm trying to talk about this stuff. And the lack of mentors thing was something that really bothered me for a long time. And now I'm coming out of it and I'm really talking about it. And I'm slowly understanding what it means to be an actual leader. And a good leader is not someone who talks about their leadership, because that immediately reduces your credibility as a leader, you know. And then also realizing that it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess leadership is just a lonely endeavor. It is what it is. People are going to hate you. People are going to like you. Some people are going to be in between. Some people are going to be on the fence. Some people are going to try and tear you down. But you just got to keep her moving, dog, and take this to any level. You know, I am but me, a simple man filming this in his ghetto apartment. And yet, you know, I think it's quite applicable. And I think that as we move down the line and continue making improvements, I think that I'm going to see more evidence for this and hopefully be able to articulate it a little bit better, right? But also, I would say, as I've said in the past, really recognize the power with the internet and the power of the connectivity that we all share through this, you know, new age of technology, and recognize that if you are lacking leaders, if you have grown to be the brightest in the room, they say get another room. You know, you're in the wrong room. And you can definitely find people who are doing better than you that you can communicate with actively. But I just am not quite willing to do that. I'm not willing to pay my way into some forum group with a guru at the head. I just don't want to find that. I'm not interested in that. I like relationships to come naturally. And so when I'm meant to find a mentor, I'll find one. And that person will materialize suddenly, right? But today is not that day. So Nick is just going to be in here doing his thing with little to no help from other real human beings. And then bludgeoning you guys over the head with how great I am. Right? Jokes. Christ. But, cool? Cool. So, that kind of wraps it up. Those were actually two different points, but I think that they tied together pretty well. So we'll jump into the next one before we wrap the whole deal and then get into our lovely section of life hacks. So a buddy of mine I called up not too long ago, and I pitched him basically my reasoning and my it was just a big pitch, of which I believe that I'm pretty good at. I'm pretty good at talking some good game about whatever and selling. I think I'm a decent salesman when it comes to stuff that I actually believe, right? And I basically pitched a long thing about why he should get in the YouTube game. And after that conversation, I thought about it, and I think that it's even more applicable when I take YouTube out of the equation and just consider it taking that leap, you know, starting that business, reading that book, taking that class, getting that job, right? So it's just a full analysis on my pitch of why to do YouTube, but about everything else as well. And what I have is, you know, you have to invest in yourself, you know, because first off, starting from the bare bones, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose in doing it, right? What is the potential downside of starting and doing that thing, right? Versus what do you have to lose in not doing it? So I'll try to relate this back to my YouTube pitch, just to hopefully make it more coherent, but try to apply it anywhere. So with the YouTube, I said, what do you have to lose in doing it? Failure, right? That's the obvious what I have to lose, maybe some money if you invest in equipment and stuff like that. But those are the big, I don't want that to happen. That would really suck kind of deal. You know, I don't want to put 10 years or 5 years or 3 years into this project and then it fails and I don't get anywhere. You know, that would suck, right? But then what do you have to lose in not doing it? You know, if you don't take that risk, you're never going to see the success. You're never going to, you know, find out if you could have made it, right? And then you're just going to be wondering every single day, well, you know, what happened? What if I did that? What if I had taken that leap of faith in myself and really invested that time in me and my future and done that for not only me, but everyone around me, right? And, you know, not to mention the financial payout of anything that you're doing. Like, what if I had taken that job and, you know, that was $400,000 a year, and now I'm making my measly whatever. You know, there's so much greater that could be gained versus what will be lost most likely, right? Maybe not most likely. That's not not quite the greatest way to put it, but like not everybody becomes successful in what they're doing. But even if the percent chance of failure is 70%, that 30% is enough to bet on you and bet on the life that you want. That is everything over here that can come from only starting. Because you got to start. You just got to do it. You just got to pull the trigger. Learn the language, right? Take the class. Go learn how to cook. Watch a couple videos, right? You know what I'm saying? And, right. So, you know, you have to invest in you. You have to recognize what you're missing out on if you don't. And also recognize what are you putting in? Time? That's it. You know, it's the same spiel pretty much that salesmen give you. Well, if you wanted to save, put another $50 onto your payment, you just have to stop drinking that coffee every morning, right? So think about like how many hours a day do you spend on your phone or doing nothing or watching TV or movies or going out with friends? And then if you just dialed that back like 1 or 2 hours a week and started putting that and investing that into what could become great in the future, what are you losing? 2 hours of your freaking day, of your week, of the however many multiples of 24, right? So the equation, when you put it that way, to me makes so much more sense. It's like, oh, well, fucking why? Obviously I'm going to start. Obviously I'm going to start now because what I'm going to gain, hypothetically, potentially, maybe, is way greater than what I'm going to lose for sure, which is just time and maybe some money, right? So putting it in that perspective, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? Right? And then on the other hand, if one of the main losses is failure, right? That's a big L, is that I failed, right? But you learned everything that doesn't work, and you learned what you don't want to do and where you don't want to go. And maybe I don't want to go that route. I don't want to become an art student. I don't want to take this class at school anymore. I mean, I don't want to change. I want to change my major, right? Now you know that because you've done it. This is something that hopefully you guys watched the video with Harold Nunley. We talked about school, and I talked about how he asked me if the money that I spent in college was worth it at the time. And I said, absolutely. Because now I spent a year doing something I didn't enjoy, finding out why I didn't enjoy it, and showing me what the path looked like. And now I tried, and I know that I don't want to do that. And so then I can make a decision accordingly, the other end. And I also made a decision from there. I said, you know, I was going to do trade work. And I joined a union, and luckily my stepdad got me a job working. He's been in the union his whole life. He's a very well-established guy. He's a master plumber and electrician, I think. Big dog in the trade world, right? And he's like head of all the jobs that he runs, and he's, you know, whatever. He runs this company basically. And luckily, Mom did a good job. He got me in there right out of college. Friday, I took my final exam. Monday, I was working for this pipe fitter union. And I tried that, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I didn't really like it, so then I thought maybe I can go lineman electrician route. And then I started looking into that, and it just wasn't paying off. And then I decided maybe I can do something different. And then now finding the route that I'm in currently, which has also evolved. So in doing the thing, you recognize what you don't want to do. And also, maybe I would have got in there and be like, dude, I freaking love welders, dude. I love welding. I would love to learn how to do that. I want to do it so freaking bad. I would love to travel, right? That could have been the outcome. And then because I tried it, I found that. But you have to look. You have to look, and you have to try. Because if you don't, you're just going to be sitting in your bed wondering every single day. And then what are you going to be? 40, 50 years old saying, what if I had done that? Where would I be today? What if I had done that? Where would I be today? What if I learned that? What if I talked to her? What if I, went to that job interview? What if I just tried to submit my application here? What if I just tried to get into that school that I definitely didn't think I was able to do? Fucking try it, dude. What are you going to lose? They say no. They reject you. They don't like you. Okay. Then try again. You keep pushing, right? You just keep moving on. So that's kind of the pitch that I gave. It was just like, dude, I know for a fact that you have the time. Just put it into this avenue, and maybe you fail. Maybe I fail. Maybe we both fail, but at least we tried it. And I don't think we're going to. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I genuinely believe that the path is somewhat formulaic. And if you follow that formula and you put in the time and the effort and the will, then you're going to come out the other side with something beneficial. Maybe not the benefit that you thought you were going to get, but a benefit regardless, right? Oh, man. That's my pitch anyways. That's my pitch. Just try, man. Just put yourself out there and take the risk, because as I've said before, the reward does not come without some level of risk, and sometimes the greater the risk, the greater the reward, and the greater the fail, right? But make smart decisions and think things through, and you're gonna be all right. You're gonna make it through. You're gonna succeed no matter what you do, as long as you're gonna try, and try accurately. Don't just go out there, right? Like when I was joining the union, I genuinely thought I was going to go that direction, and therefore I really pushed hard in like learning how it works, seeing how rigging works, and seeing how the welders weld, and asking questions, and talking about pay and per diem and travel schedules and family time, what you make, what you don't make, how to choose the right jobs, what's a good union, asking these questions. So coming in it with intention and really pushing forward, as if you're going to do that for sure, because that's the only way that you find, when you ask these questions, you find like, oh, dude, what? You see your family like 1 week out of the freaking month for a couple days, or one weekend out of the month. That's when you see your family, the people that you care about, and the rest you're working all the time, like 12 hours a day. Yep. I don't like that. Oh, okay. All right, how long did it take you to turn out? Oh, like this long. I don't like that. I'm just back in school, So this getting in there and really digging through and doing it, you find out all the reasons why you should do it and all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, and then you can make a much better judgment than just like looking from the outside and being like, I think this is how it works. No, dude, you don't understand it until you've done it, right? Like right now, the plan is real estate. The plan is building a portfolio of real estate investments and then renting some or most of those out, flipping some, right? But maybe I get in that game and I fucking hate it, dude. Maybe I get in there and dealing with tenants is a hassle, and going back in and fixing all the shit they break sucks, and the money isn't great, and it's just not a real good business strategy for me. Then I can change, but at least I've done it, so that now that I know. And then that gives you wisdom over the years, so that maybe some young buck coming up is like, hey man, should I go to college? And you say, well, listen. And then you tell them everything that you went through and why you did or why you did not do it. And then that gives them so much more perspective, right? Because you have gained those lessons the hard way. And so you really understand them, right? Cool. Oh, here we go. So, and that even falls into the category of the It's a Wonderful Life philosophy. Because I'm not saying that you should make risks because of the benefit of you learning just so that you can tell other people. I don't think that is quite worth it, right? Take the risk that you think is going to pay off, and then if it doesn't, or if it does, then you gain those lessons just by happenstance. But imagine how much better of advice you can give if you've really traveled and you've really pushed yourself in lots of different ways and you've really tried a lot of different things. And now you could be like, well, this didn't really work, and I tried this and it's crazy. Not let alone like conversationally, the stories that you gain. Like, dude, I don't think I've ever told anyone other than when I was working there the stories of what it's like to work with tradesmen. That is insane. It's a freaking crazy world, dude. Like, I met some real characters in that motherfucker. And now I have those stories to tell, right? And now I have those stories to tell, and I have the advice to give, and I have the, my opinion on the matter, right? And that's definitely worth the time that I put in. Plus, I made a lot of money, so that also was pretty worth it, right? And then I learned where I wanted my life to go and where I didn't want to go. So so many things that you gain from just trying it out. And although it definitely wasn't comfortable in the beginning, like that was a real adjustment trying to freaking fit in with these goobers, but it was worth it. It was worth it. It really paid off. It was like one of the most well spent years of my life, and I got some pretty cool hats out of it too, and a really cool jacket also, right? And at one point, I was driving my own truck. That was pretty sweet, dude. Right? Because I worked for a mechanical contractor, I got to see all of these crazy like underground spots in all these schools in Ann Arbor, right? What? Dude, I would never see that. These secret passageways and these deep caverns, and like people had been killed down there, and this crazy graffiti and so much cool stuff, dude. Just because I tried it. And now that has literally no bearing on my life. Like, I'm so far removed from that, but I still have that wealth of knowledge that I did career, or that I